can see, we are talking about more than 100 years, so I will try to be as brief as possible and go through everything so that it makes sense, but also it doesn't bore you very much, because we know that this history stuff can be sometimes a little boring, but I hope that it will be interesting to everyone. As I said, I will introduce you to the period from 1918 to now and to the challenges that we are facing now. That means that I will cover the era of Czechoslovakia, the World War II, the communist era, the Velvet Revolution, the European Union and NATO membership, and as well as today's contemporary challenges. And the main focus of the presentation is the evaluation of the national sovereignty in the country. Okay, so first let me start with the creation of Czechoslovakia in 1918. This period goes from 1918 to 1938. And the creation of Czechoslovakia started with the collapse of the Austro-Hungarian Empire at the end of World War I, with the Treaty of Trianon being signed. And with this, Czechoslovakia was created, and it brought together Czechs and Slovaks in a unified state. For Slovakia, this marked a significant step towards self-determination, but it wasn't quote-unquote ideal, because they still had to share a state with another nation. And the power was heavily centralized in Prague, and the Slovak leaders often felt like they were marginalized politically and also culturally. And the demands of Slovaks for greater autonomy were largely unmet, which created tensions between the Union, and Slovaks sought more recognition of their unique identity and local control. And the next period was the period of the First Slovak Republic, which was during the Second World War. And in this period, the First Slovak Republic was created, and Slovakia was gaining independence, but we know that it wasn't fully independent, but it was more of a satellite state of the Nazi Germany. And so it wasn't a fully sovereign nation. And Slovakia's policies and governance were heavily directed by Germany and were limited by the German autonomy. And this period remains controversial part of Slovak history, as it highlights the complexity of sovereignty under foreign influence and wartime pressures. The next period was the post-war period after the Second World War, where Slovakia rejoined the reintegrated into Czechoslovakia, and following the communist coup in 1948, it became a part of the Eastern Bloc under Soviet influence. So we can again see that the sovereign state was again lacking during this time, and the power was centralized in Prague as well, and the Slovak region had a limited control over its own governance. And Slovakia remained part of the federation, but Soviet control overshadowed national sovereignty for both Czechs and also Slovak lands. And Slovakia's political and economic decisions were aligned with the broader Soviet policies and were reducing the space for decision making. And we can see the two leaders at the time on the picture, Gottwald and Stalin. The next area that I would like to focus on is the period from 1968 to 1989, which was a pivotal period in Czechoslovak history, with historical moments for the country's autonomy. The progress brings reforms is one of the points that I would like to emphasize. It was when reformist leaders in Czechoslovakia, including Alexander Dubček, for example, called for new political and economic reforms that would decentralize power and give more autonomy for Slovakia. And in the end, it wasn't just a call in the emptiness, because in response to these reforms, Czechoslovakia was federalized, meaning that Slovakia gained an increased administrative autonomy, and this happiness was short-lived, because the Warsaw Pact ended most of the liberalizing changes. The next period is the Velvet Revolution and the Slovak independence. This period goes from 1989 to 1993. And the Velvet Revolution was in 1988, when the people of Slovakia were calling for a democratic government. And we can see on the picture the keys. They were clinging with the keys so that the Soviet government leaves. And they were pushing for Slovak leaders. Slovak leaders were pushing for greater sovereignty within the federation, and the tensions between Slovak and Czech leaders over the structure of the state grew, and but it ended in a peaceful dissolution of Czechoslovakia on January the 1st, 1993. And with this, Slovakia became an independent state for the first time in modern history. And now it could establish its own political institutions, also economy, and overall international identity. So the next period would be from 1993 to 2004, where Slovakia became part of many international organizations, which also had their impact on the state's sovereignty, and shaping either the constitution or overall the country's economy or politics. And the challenges faced, including building new democratic institutions and transitioning from a centrally planned economy to a market-based system. And political reforms focused on stabilizing governance, while the economic reforms aimed to attract foreign investments and integrate Slovakia into the global economy. And Slovakia joined the European Union in 2004, and this was a critical milestone in the international integration. And the EU membership brought economic and political stability, but it also required Slovakia to make many amendments to either the constitution or the national laws, so that it can align with the EU standards. And of course, it started the debate between national sovereignty and EU law that are ongoing even today. And in 2004, the year which Slovakia joined the European Union, it also became part of the NATO, which ensures its national sovereignty through the alliance collective defense agreements. And Slovakia, with this alliance, its policies with the broader goals of the alliance. And this NATO membership strengthens Slovakia's defense capabilities, but also requires coordination with the alliance leadership on military spending, security priorities, and strategic defense initiatives. And now the political landscape and challenges today. In the recent years, Slovakia has continued to strengthen its political institutions and address issues related to governance and transparency and the rule of law. And the discussions about the national sovereignty are still ongoing, as I said before, but some political parties are even questioning the influence of the EU policies that have on Slovakia's national decision making, particularly in areas like migration, economic regulation, and social policy. But Slovakia nevertheless must balance its national interests with its commitments to international organizations like the EU or NATO, and with this, it should strike balance between national sovereignty that the country has for long strived for, and but also political stability and governance. So to conclude, Slovakia's journey to sovereignty has been shaped by its experiences as part of Czechoslovakia. So we've lived through federation, and then its peaceful independence in 1993, and integration later on in the EU and the NATO. And while it enjoys full sovereignty as a modern state, it faced ongoing challenges in balancing national autonomy with the benefits and obligations of international cooperation. And what I can say is that the political landscape evolves even today, and Slovakia's role in the global community will continue to shape its national sovereignty in the following years. And I'm sorry that this was very brief, but if someone is interested to further this knowledge, then please read my article that will come in the following months. Thank you. Thank you very much.